Hello and welcome to another episode of Chapters Conversations series in my podcast, the Anuj Kapoor Talk Show. So, friends, some books don't just ask to be read; they are they ask to be felt, and they sit quietly with you, gently nudging memories you thought you'd made peace with and questions you may have been avoiding. In this episode today, I am joined by someone whose poetry does exactly that. Sabahat Jahan is a poet whose collection, Life in Reverse, uh, takes readers through self discovery, quiet victories, and heartbreak, often using very few words to say some very powerful things. My friends, her poems don't offer easy answers. Instead, they invite us to look forward, to notice both our bruises and our beauty. In this conversation today, we will talk about her journey, how it has been, her relationship with poetry, uh, silence and reflection, hope and longing, and a lot of other things, and the stories we tell ourselves about the lives we have lived and the lives we imagine. So, stay with me till the end because this is one of those conversation. This is one of those conversations that stays with you long after even after the episode ends. With that, let us begin with the episode. Okay. So, welcome, Sabahat. It's such a pleasure to have you in this podcast, Sabahat. Yeah,
Thank you so much. I'm really excited. It's my first podcast. So I'm definitely late to the game, but
right.
thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Yeah, as they say, better late than never. So,
Yep.
I mean, and I am really very obliged that you are. I'm the first one interviewing you in the podcast. So, I mean, pleasure is mine. So, first thing first, about the book that you have written, the title "Life in Reverse."
Mhm.
It's just looks deeply reminiscent, basically. What does it mean to you personally, and how did this idea of the entire book uh, come up? I mean, how did you come with this wonderful book that consists of poetry? Yeah.
I've some friends and other readers asked me the same question about the title of the book, and I always like to turn it onto them and say, "What do you think
Mhm.
it means?" And what's been fascinating is hearing the different interpretations of the title. And I think that's part of the beauty of poetry, that it leaves so much room for the reader to sort of take ownership of it and to pour their own lives and narratives into it. So many people had different interpretations of what that title might have meant. What I meant by it was really looking back at, when you're younger, you're so sure of everything. The world is black and white, and there are good people and bad people, and you do good things or bad things, and everything's really clear cut, and you think you figured it all out and you know everything. But the older I've gotten, the more I've realized that I don't know much at all, and the more I know, the less I know. Right? I realize
Right.
that we occupy these gray areas in life, and there really are very few
Right.
certainties, if any, when it comes to human beings or human nature. Or
Right.
and so
Okay.
the title is sort of that realization that in some ways life is almost going backwards, where I feel like I know and understand less
Okay.
about life than I did when I was 20 or 22, when I felt so certain
Right.
about everything.
Okay.
So that's
Mhm.
part of the reasoning. And there's a poem in the book that sort of,
Mhm.
speaks to that idea.
Yeah, yes. I read couple of poems, and I mean, they were very, what do you say, very thoughtful, I mean, I can say. And I'm sure the readers would really love the poems that you have written in the book. Yeah. That brings me to the next question.
Thank you.
uh, yeah, thank you. That brings me to the next question, is that if you had to describe this book as a journey, where does it begin, or for that matter, where did it begin, where does it leave the reader? Yeah.
I thought of, I didn't quite think of the book as
Hmm.
a linear journey with a beginning, middle, and end, but rather maybe a continuous journey of reflection, of understanding, of introspection. But if I were to think of it as a journey, then I would say that maybe the reader begins with self-doubt, or all the many insecurities we have about life, and mistakes we've made, and regrets we might have. And I hope that by the end of the book, the reader feels a sense of maybe coming to terms with those, and seeing the beauty in not just the things that went well, but an
Hmm.
acknowledgement of all the things that didn't go well, but
Right.
still made us who we are and brought us to this point. So if there's a
Okay.
journey, then I hope that it's a journey of some kind of healing, of some
Right.
kind of acknowledgement of one's own
Hmm.
complexities and vulnerabilities.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So do you believe that poetry, I mean, this is a very generic question, not related to any book. So do you believe that poetry should comfort the reader, or really challenge them, or can it do both at all at once? Yeah.
Well, I think it does both, and not just for the reader, but the writer as
Mhm.
well. I mean, the
Okay.
writer challenges him or herself, put something out there into the world that, especially in the
Mhm.
case of poetry, or this certainly my genre of poetry, sort of
Right.
seemingly confessional, right?
Mhm.
I'm challenging myself, and challenging my own fears or insecurities, and putting this out into the
Right.
world. But in doing that, there's a sense of comfort that this is a shared
Mhm.
experience, that others who will read it will see themselves in it, will find comfort in it. And so I hope that for the reader as well, that the
Mhm.
reader is maybe challenged a little bit. Maybe there are things that might make the reader uncomfortable, or relive some of their painful memories or pasts,
Mhm.
or obstacles or regrets. But that again, eventually the reader comes to
Mhm.
a place of comfort, or a place of
Comfort.
security, in knowing that these things don't define us, and or rather that they do define us, but not in the way that society might have said, right? That they define us,
Right.
but they make us stronger, they make us more resilient, they make us beautiful.
Right.
So may hopefully the reader will come to that sort of a realization.
True. Yes. Uh, so your collection of poems, actually, they as I said earlier, I read couple of poems. So what I found is that it provides a balance of hope and hopelessness, and love and longing, and despair and resilience. So I mean, why do you really think that contradiction are such an essential part of a human experience? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that, I mean, it, no art could really be considered real, or reflective of reality, if it's not complex and
Okay.
contradictory, and dual, and all these different combinations of things. I mean, human beings are like that. We are
Right.
a mixture of so many feelings and emotions, and not all good.
Right.
There's
Mhm.
pettiness and jealousy, but there's
Mhm.
also generosity and love and friendship. I live in Mumbai, and the city is full of
Hmm.
contradictions. India
Yes.
is full of contradictions. The world
True.
is full of contradictions. So I think that you can't really hold a picture of reality, or life, or society, or even love, without showing its entire, the whole picture. And that whole picture has all of these, this tug of war between, good and bad, and, you know all of these conflicting and contradictory emotions. So I think that's just reality, and there's no way to escape it.
Right. You talked about India and Mumbai. So, could you talk a little bit about your background, about your how your life has been, and how did poetry, I mean, come into being? And we want to talk about it. I mean,
Sure.
it's living in Mumbai. How is it really? I mean, I have been to Mumbai on several occasions. I really love the city, the vibe, the especially that Queen of Necklace. That really
Mhm.
it feels great, and it really feels lively.
Mhm.
That particular city. It's because and it is also said that it is a city that never sleeps.
Right.
So over to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it's like any massive
Mhm.
city that's, bustling with life and activity, but you can also be lost in it, and you can be anonymous. So no one really is paying attention to you, and there's a
Mhm.
beauty to that as well.
Right.
So I think it's so full of life. You can sit somewhere and just watch people go about their lives, and
Mhm.
can watch, young lovers sitting on the bike on the highway, and you can watch families walking on Marine Drive, and
True.
there's so much life to be seen and appreciated, and marveled at. But at the same time, you can just be an observer. You can just disappear into the crowd, and just observe. And there's so many stories, that you
Yes.
can tell. So in
Mhm.
that way, like any cosmopolitan city that's sort of full of life, Mumbai has so much to offer.
True. True. So how has your journey been so far? I mean, how do you uh, take it? Your journey. I mean, right now that you have published your book, and earlier, how it has been? Yeah.
This is my first publication in India.
Mm-hmm.
I have other publications, in Bangladesh, where I'm from, and in the
Okay.
US when I was there. So it's been a wonderful experience with Wolf Books, and
Mm-hmm.
gotten to know new friends and people, and it's been a very, very good journey. I'm already excited about, what
Mm-hmm.
I'll do next, and of course India has a large English readership, and so that's always nice. And to see young people and friends and others who don't even know me, want
Right.
the book, or come to the launch, those things are really encouraging. So I'm really hopeful about, again, not, this, I'm not going to get rich off of this, but I'm really excited for people to just read it, for it to reach others, and hopefully have conversations like this. So the journey's been really wonderful.
Okay, sure. Uh, uh, and my next question is that in today's world that moves very fast, and particularly in the city where you are living, uh, it's pretty fast, and the values where so where does it the poetry find its place today? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, poetry requires a certain
Mm,
stillness,
right.
of mind, of
Mhm.
spirit. You could read poetry on the metro or the train,
Right.
and that's fine. But you need some sort of, stillness and peace of
Stillness.
mind,
Yeah.
maybe in that moment.
True.
So I think, yeah, that it's tough. It's tough in today's world, which is probably why, poetry isn't a genre that is
Mm.
widely consumed.
Yes.
Novels and stories, short stories maybe, are more popular. But those who do enjoy it and appreciate it, I think they are sort of lifelong fans of poetry, and they're diehard fans of
Mhm.
poetry and literature. So I'm not sure how to, I am a teacher as well, so I do try to
Okay.
reach. Um, I try to reach my students through poetry, through the beauty of
Okay.
words and language. But you're right. There are too many things out there, too many
Yes. Yes.
distractions.
Yes,
But
exactly.
let's hope that poetry is still something that at least some people enjoy.
Yep, yep, very true. I mean, in fact, I also love poetry, love reading poems. But as a matter of fact, I read poems. Honestly speaking, I read poems whenever I am at peace, or
Mhm.
I am at while going to bed. Before going to bed, I just happen to read a few poems, basically, and just happen to read go through them, and they are wonderful. They fill your they put your entire energy into yourself. It's like magic, basically, while you are reading poetry. Yeah, you're right. Yes. So my next question is that about the book is that what do you really hope a reader uh, carries with them while they are reading your collection of poems, the book, The Life in Reverse?
Mhm. I think that some things I've mentioned already. Maybe this acceptance of one's past, and turning, maybe converting regrets and the disappointments, etc., into something beautiful, or seeing the value in those moments as well, even if they were difficult. I think the other thing is, again, takes me back to, when you're younger, you're running after perfection. You think that life will be perfect and things will be perfect, and you'll have
Right,
some kind of perfection, either in the way you look or the relationships you have. And again,
right.
the older you get, you realize that, well, perfection
True.
is really fiction, and there is no such thing. And honestly, it's boring. I mean, perfection is boring. You want things to be flawed. You want things to have little, chips and cuts, and
True.
you want some imperfection, which is what makes, I think, everything interesting. So maybe the reader can see themselves in a new light and see their lives in a new light, where those bruised and broken places are celebrated, and not simply seen as, well, this is a shortcoming, or this is a flaw, or these are the mistakes I made. But maybe
Yes.
looking at those and thinking, well, these are all part of the mosaic, that is my life, that all the complexities and all the dualities, that each of us carry. So hopefully that's something positive the reader can take away with them.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure the readers will definitely like it because I personally liked it. So I would. I'm sure they will love reading the poems because it has a certain depth. And honestly, I haven't read all of them, but yes, for the most of the poems that I have read, they are really fascinating. Yeah, but which brings me to another question: is that was there a poem in a book in the book that was particularly difficult for you to write or to let go into the world?
No, there wasn't a particular poem, but there is a poem about, that I've written about, the difficulty of writing anything new. What do you write that has not been written before? In the sense that, all these, the universal themes of love and loss and friendship and grief and, tragedy and etc. Someone's written about it, or people have been writing about it for centuries. And so how do you breathe sort of new life into these topics that have been around forever? So there's a poem in the book called Stolen, and I'm sort of in it, I'm grappling with this idea about, how do I give how do I make my words any different than the words
Hmm.
that have come before me? Or how do I make them beautiful or
Okay.
meaningful when so much exists already? All these stories have already been told. So
Right.
that's something I struggle with sometimes.
Okay. So now, if you want, I would really love to if you can recite a poem which is one of your favorite from the Life in Reverse book. I'm sure all of the poems will be your favorite. It will be very difficult to pick and choose, but if you can uh, just recite one of those that is especially close to your heart. um, yeah, and what makes that poem very meaningful to you? Yeah.
Sure. Actually, I mean, I don't like them all. I would say the opposite, that it's very hard for me to find one. Once I've written it, once it's out in the world, I find many faults with it. So then I think, oh, this isn't good enough, and I should have done a better job. And so actually, it's the opposite. I'll read one that many listeners have liked in the past. And it again is about this, when you're younger, you're so eager to grow up and become older, and you think, well, who knows what we thought when we were younger, but we were in such a rush, to be older. When you're older, you realize, oh my goodness, time just flew by in the
Right.
blink of an eye, and 20 years or so have gone by, and you look back and you think, how did that happen? So this one is called, sorry, I can't memorize to save my life, so I have to read my own poetry from the
Sure.
book.
Sure.
This is called Time Travel.
Hmm.
I woke up this morning to find 2 decades had passed since last night. I was a mother, a father, a daughter, a son, and a million nameless things. People had died, places had changed, homes had broken, some repaired, some beyond repair, and the dust from collapsed lives floated in the murky air.
Hmm.
I woke up this morning to find 2 decades had passed since last night.
Wow. Brilliant.
So, thank you.
Brilliant.
So,
And
that's one about sort of waking up and
right.
sort of noticing how time has just,
Right.
passed you by.
True. True. It has such a meaning. I mean, if if you can understand, I think it has a lot of depth. It is a lot of meaning. But uh, uh, for you, what really makes it meaningful to you, or to, for that matter, for anyone? Yeah.
I mean, again, I think that the beauty of it is people will, I chose that because when I've read it
Hmm.
in the past,
Hmm.
friends or people in the audience, or even strangers have said, oh my God, that that's exactly how I feel, or that's exactly how I felt in that moment. So people can relate to it, and they bring their own sort of their own narratives to it, their own lives to it. For me, I was a single mother for pretty much my son's entire life. He's 20 now,
Hmm.
and off to university. So when he was little, and it was difficult. It's difficult to raise a child anyway, let alone on your own. And people would say, oh, it's going to go by in the blink of an eye, and you'll
Hmm.
wake up and he'll be off to college. And I would think, oh my God, no, it's really hard, and every
Right.
day is really long, and it's not going by in the blink of an eye. And then you realize that the cliches are true,
True.
and now that he is 20, and now
Hmm.
that he is off to university, he's been at university for 2 years.
Okay.
Now I do look back, and that's how I feel like 20 years went by, in the blink of an eye. So as much
Yes.
as in that moment I resisted it, I thought
Hmm.
that's not how it works.
Right.
But in retrospect, I say, oh, there's a reason. There's a cliche that you
True.
just go by in the blink of an eye. It's true, it did.
True.
So that's sort of where that poem came from
Okay.
my life. That was the
Okay.
connection.
Okay. Sure. So, my next question is that, so what next for you? Uh, Another poetry collection, another poetry book, or a different form of storytelling, or some fiction. Maybe do you want to try another genre?
Well, I mean, I've been, again, my friends keep saying, write a novel, start a novel,
Mhm.
but now that you've seen the length of my poems, I feel like
Right.
I don't know what to write after 5 or 6 lines. I've told a
Mhm.
story in 4 lines. I
Mhm.
think the story's finished. So
Right.
I'm thinking, how do I write 300 words
Mhm.
when I'm telling stories in, on a
Mhm.
one page? So
True.
I don't know. I might try it.
Mhm.
But poetry is just something that comes naturally to me.
True.
So
Okay.
even after this collection, there are already, 20 new ones,
Mm.
for the next one whenever that happens. But yeah, maybe I'll consider, starting a novel. Let's see where it goes. Um,
Mhm.
but poetry is just always happening. It's all that's always happening. It's sort of something that feeds my soul. So that I'm always doing.
Okay.
But whether I'll try something new or not, that I'll have to think about, put some
Yeah.
effort into.
As they say, once a poet, always a poet. Yeah. So that's,
I
yeah.
guess so.
And also, you you need to do what your heart says. That's what matters in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. True. So my next question is about the publication. So
Mhm.
how do you really find the publication process of Wolf Books, and how was your experience with Wolf Books publishing, and did you find it easy or really difficult or stuff? Yeah.
No, it was a
Hmm.
very smooth
Right.
process with Wolf Books. Everyone there was really wonderful. We got a, it just flowed very smoothly. So, had a lovely editor who made suggestions, but it was all
Mhm.
a very cooperative process where, sometimes I said, no, I'm not going to change that. I'm, married to that word, or, the
Right.
punctuation, and I'm really serious about it. And then sometimes I would say, oh, I never thought of it. I never thought of changing maybe a certain kind of structure. So I think it went really well. It was a great experience for me to work with. I made new friends. To work with, Wolf Books. It was all a very smooth process. So I'm really happy with the way that turned out.
Okay, cool. Uh, I also wanted to ask you. Uh, I mean, on another note, is that any tips you want to give to those who want to write poetry, who want to start with writing the poetry, the or those kind of Gen Zs, as they have called these days,
Mm.
those people, what are the certain tips that you would like to give, if you want to, if anyone wants to write poetry? Yeah.
I think that, I mean, I would give the same advice to, anyone who wants to write. Then just do it. Like, just keep at it. I mean, don't care if it's perfect or not, or don't worry about the, punctuation. Just write. Keep
Mhm.
writing. You can always come back, fix it, edit it, tweak it. But I think that sometimes we wait for, the perfect line to come to
Right.
us, or the perfect, I'm going to write. It's not good enough. Just write. Just write. I
Mm.
mean, that's the foundation of whatever you will write, whether
Mhm.
it's poetry or, prose. Just write and then come back to it. And then, I spend more time editing than I do writing. So I mean, I just write and then I come back to it later. I'll come back to it 3 or 4 times and
Right.
look at each poem again, and tweak things, slash, cut in, cut it in half or something. So I would just say, just do it, as opposed to waiting for a perfect line or a perfect moment. Just do it. Yeah, just
Mhm.
write.
Yes, I think I also believe that, and I'm also a blog writer. I write blogs and stuff. So I think that this goes for any kind of writing. Just keep writing, because many times what we realize is that when we are stuck, we just don't write. So, but I also tend to give advice to most of the people that even if you are stuck, just go on writing, because you can always edit it later. Whatever you are writing, you
Right,
just once you come back and read it, and you will keep you can edit it later. But
right.
the main crux is that you first write,
Mhm.
what put down your thoughts, basically. Yeah, I think.
Right.
But what I think is that poetry is something which comes natural. I mean,
Mhm.
you can write a piece, write even a story, or maybe a article that can be written. But poetry is something which comes natural to you, and uh, it blends with the creativity and stuff. It It really is an art, and not many people can do it, can be poets basically. So any thoughts on yours? Uh,
I mean, yeah, I think people ask that often. Like what makes you write poetry, or why poetry? And
mhm,
honestly, I don't have an answer.
mhm.
This is what comes out of me.
Right. Yes.
This is the form it takes. This is the shape it takes. I don't dictate it. I am not,
Mhm.
I never set out to be a poet, but this is just the way. When I form words, this is the way I form words, or
Right.
this is the way language sort of pours out of me. So it's almost it's something I can't stop, or can't
Mhm.
not do.
Mhm.
Like I said, even after this, that there's just something that comes naturally. Good or
Actually.
bad is a separate issue, but the fact is that it just is something that that speaks to me, that like you said, challenges me, but also comforts me. It heals me. It's a way to communicate with the world. It's a way to connect with people. But again, I mean, those are not conscious choices. That is just how those words have connected me to the world.
Sure, sure. Yeah, makes sense. And one last question I wanted to ask is that about the your favorite poets. Any one of your favorite, any one or two of your favorite poets that you would like, that you have read their prose, their poems, their poetry, that you would, that you feel that others would benefit. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've got a poem in this collection that's dedicated to Neruda, Pablo Neruda.
Mhm.
So he's one of my favorite poet, maybe my favorite poet. So I mean, his descriptions, it's so vivid, it's so visceral. The feelings of love or grief or loss. So I mean, I find his, even though I'm reading it in translation from the Spanish, to English, but even then, the poetry is so powerful that you can only imagine, what it's like in its original. So yeah, Neruda would be my favorite, and there's a poem dedicated to Neruda in this collection as well. So
Mhm.
if people are a fan of poetry that really um, touches you, that makes you ache,
Mhm.
then go read Neruda.
Okay, sure. I actually read a couple of poems. The one English poems. One was for Keats,
Mm.
and yeah, that those were the times. But normally, I am these days I am reading Hindi poetry as
Mhm.
well. So I like
Right.
reading those as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
uh, Hindi poetry, Urdu poetry,
Yeah. Yes.
Faz Ahmed Faz. I mean,
Ahmed
there
Faiz.
are,
Yeah. Right.
Iqbal,
Iqbal.
there's
Mhm.
such a rich tradition. I mean, so
True.
yeah, in the sort of European Western world, I would choose Neruda, but then there
Mhm.
are, Ghalib. I mean, there are just
Hmm.
giants,
Right.
that
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
can't even come close to them. They're giants in the Indian subcontinent. Yeah,
True, true,
absolutely.
true.
Mhm.
Okay, all right, Sabahat. That was a brilliant conversation we had,
Nice. Thank
and
you.
it's such a pleasure to have you in this show. And thank you for making time for this
Of course.
podcast, and sharing your story. I'm sure my listeners, they would love reading this collection of poems, and they will really like it. And
Thank
I
you.
mean, thank you for sharing your thoughts, and you have a lovely time. And yeah, thank you so
So
much.
it's I mean, I'm sure I mean, well, this is what it looks like, and
Right? Yes,
it's
yes.
available on Amazon
If
India.
you could just display it, just yeah, yes. So yeah, so
It's
that
got my notes in it, but this is
right, right,
this is
right.
what it looks like. And it's available on Amazon India. It was sold out a few days ago. Then some of my friends said, "Oh, we want a copy and can't find it," but hopefully it's been fixed now. So
Yes,
so
yes, it is there. It is there, and I will share the link to the listeners
wonderful.
uh,
Thank you.
in the when this podcast will be released. Yeah,
Thank you
sure.
so much, Anuj. Very nice
Thank you.
to connect with you.
Sure. Same here. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.
Some conversations linger long after they end, just like certain poems. Today's conversation with Sabahat Jahan reminded us that life isn't about milestones we celebrate, but also about the quiet moments, the paths untaken, and the questions we uh, we are brave enough to sit with. Life in Reverse isn't just a book that tells you what to think. It gently invites you to feel, to reflect, and perhaps to see your own story a little differently. And on that note, we come to an end in this episode today of my new series on books, that is Chapters and Conversation, my podcast, The Anuj Kapoor Talk Show. Uh, Before you go, I encourage you to pick up this book, Life in Reverse. Pause for a moment and look within. You will find the link to buy this book in the description down below. Uh, and do follow Sabahat Jahan on Instagram to stay updated on our work. And if you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe uh, to this podcast so that you never miss any episode filled with thoughtful and meaningful conversations. Thank you once again for tuning in to this podcast. Until next time, keep reading, keep reflecting, and stay inspired. Bye for now.